Hey guys, I'm back with another Belay device review. This one's going to be the much awaited, long requested Edelrid Giga Jul. And this actually is quite an interesting device because out of a lot of companies trying to blend together the functionality of an ATC guide sort of tubular belay device with the brake assist compatibility of devices like a Grigri, I feel like this device is probably the best blend of those two genres. Essentially what this Giga Jul is a tubular brake assist slash manual auto blocking belay device. Yeah, I think I got all that. It's a bit of a mouthful. And it is modeled off of Edelrid's old Mega Jul. And so I'm going to, throughout the review, compare it with the Mega Jul, because if you guys have seen my review on the Mega Jul, you'll see how it has a few shortcomings and other things that I and many other folks don't like in the design that is actually pretty much rectified with this new device. And I think if you are looking for a do-it-all device for multi-pitch rock climbing, single-pitch climbing, alpine climbing, ice climbing, this may be the device for you. And I know I don't say that lightly. Usually there's something I don't like about, or at least one feature I don't like in these devices. But this device, so far, of all the ones I've checked out, is probably the closest to a do-it-all device that I have ever used so far. And perhaps maybe the Mammut Smart sort of gets this as well in terms of being close to a do-it-all device. But I think this, in my opinion, this Giga Jul outcompetes the Mammut Smart just by a hair. And that can either be in packability, because this hanging on your harness doesn't take up as much room as the Smart, as well as the functionality of switching between manual and auto blocking features, which I will show you in the rest of the video. It's a very impressive device, and I've really enjoyed using it, and I definitely will use it in the future. And let me show you what I'm talking about. It took me a while to sort of make this video because I really had to mess around with this a lot and bring it out in many different situations to get a full grasp on how to use it. With other devices like single pitch devices, that's kind of easy. You use them for a day and you have an opinion on it. I've been using this device for about a month and a half now, and I can say I have a pretty good opinion on the pros and cons of it. So let's get right into the video. So first thing I want to bring to light about this device is this thing that moves around. See, I don't know if Edelrid has a specific name for it, so I'm going to call it the slider. It slides along these two rows right here. You can actually see it's metal inside the rows. You see it has two letters, A and M. So the A stands for automatic, or the A stands for assist, as an assisted belay. And you can, easy way to tell this is because you have the thumb loop, just like in the old Mega Jul, the thumb loop always faces away from you to use the brake assist mode. Same deal here. So if you slide this arrow this way, this is the brake assist mode, and then you would load your rope in the front and then have your thumb loaded up the same way. I'll demonstrate later on in the video. If I want to use this as a manual belay device, just like my ATC right here, then I'll slide it back right there, and they have an M for manual, and now I'll hold it like this with the thumb loop towards myself and the teeth away, and now it feeds just like a regular ATC. And you would stick the rope in, again I'll show you later on, and the rope comes out here where your brake hand is. And so that is the main difference right there between pretty much any belay device on the market, is the fact that you can switch between a brake assist mode and a manual mode, and it's all in one device. One thing I am kind of worried about, and I've seen this with other Edelrid products, like carabiners, is when they do incorporate some sort of sliding motion, a lot of times this will actually break and pop out. And I would definitely recommend to retire the Belay device if this does break and pop out. With the way it's designed, I feel like that's not going to happen, as opposed to their slide lock carabiners, which that can happen, and they become regular carabiners. But I think this is just a bit more of a durable design, and I'm not as worried about that. On the side, you can also see pictures as well. Brake assist, you see the little arrow, so it's another way of showing you and reminding you that brake assist, if you want to use it in the brake assist mode, you slide this way, and then you have the same pictures, climbers on this side, brake side on that side. If I flip it over, now it's the other way. If you want to use it in manual mode, you slip this over to manual, and now you have climber side out the top right here, and then your brake hand on this side. So they do whatever they can to remind you about which way you want this little thing to be flipped if you want to use it in a specific setting. But overall, it'll just take practice, and remember to double check every time you use it, the first couple times you do, just to make sure that everything is all correct and you don't accidentally screw up something. So first, let's use this device while belaying a top rope climber. I have my top rope right here. And before I show you what that can do, I'm going to talk about the old style megajoule. And so if you wanted to belay with the megajoule, you'd have your carabiner on your belay loop. You want to turn the thumb loop facing away from you, thread the rope like so, climber side on top, and clip the carabiner and lock it. And now you can belay your climber with your standard P-bus method. If the climber falls, then the whole device cinches up on itself due to the geometry and the cut that it has right there. And you always have to keep your brake hand on, of course, but that'll help you out with the climber. If you want to lower, you stick your thumb in the thumb loop. Here, I'll show you on my left hand. Thumb loop like that, and pull away from you, I think, is the best, until the climber comes down the wall. Now, one thing that you cannot do while top rope belaying is flip it over and use it without the brake assist like you could with rappelling, because the minute you try to take in slack, there we go, it'll lock up on you, and then you're not actually belaying the climber. So that means that there's only one way to actually load this device properly for top rope belaying, and that is thumb out in front of you, and you always have to belay with that brake assist feature on the device. Some people may not like that for whatever reason, and then if you were on like a bigger multi-pitch style route, that would mean you'd have to bring a second device with you if you do want to belay in that fashion without the brake assist, or just bring a different device altogether. Now, moving to the Giga Jul, first thing I'm going to do is to show the auto-locking capabilities. So what I'm going to do is take the little slider right here, and it's already set in that position, but let's say it's like this. And I'm going to make sure that it's slid up, so that way it's set up for brake assist mode. And clip it onto my harness, grab my same rope, climber side on top with the thumb loop. In this case, it's black instead of green. I'm going to have that facing away from me. Put it into the device, take the carabiner, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. And now, I'm going to be top rope belaying again, so I'm just going to pull in rope, no big deal, pull brake underslide. The climber falls, the whole device locks up on itself, just like the megajoule. And then if I want to lower, same deal, I'm just going to push this away from me. Because this whole thing is bigger than the megajoule, you see how the size comparison there, it's going to feel slightly different with lowering, but nothing too huge. You'll catch on no problem. But yeah, you just pull the rope out and it slides through. Now, if for some reason I want to belay in a manual mode and I left my ATC at home or I only have one device, cool thing here is I'll take that little slider and slide it from A to M for manual. I'm going to flip the whole device around, so instead of that thumb loop facing away from me, I'm going to flip it towards myself, And then I'm going to load the rope the same deal, climber side on top. Climbers are always on top, brake side on bottom. Lock it up. And now I can go right back into my pull brake underslide. Same as before. If the climber falls, if I'm using proper belay technique, I have my brake hand in the brake position the whole time. But if for some reason I don't, you can see how the rope just slides through. And so when I want to lower my climber, I'll just lower them by loosening up my brake hand, keeping my hand oriented in the brake position while they come down, like you normally would with a tubular belay device. And so that offers a lot of versatility in one solid belay device. You practically have two devices in one when it comes to top rope climbing. And so that can have a lot of good benefits for gym climbers or any other single pitch folks. Maybe you like to use the auto brake assist mode for lead belaying, but when it comes to top rope belaying, a lot of gyms nowadays, they have a lot of friction in their top rope systems, and so maybe it'd be worth switching to manual and not dealing with that extra brake assist feature when you already have so much friction in the system. So that offers a really nice amount of versatility in one device. When it comes to belaying twin ropes, it's pretty much the same. You feed rope out, you take rope in with two, twin or half, I mean. If the climber falls, it still does its auto locking, and nothing's really different. So it works very well if you're using two rope systems as well. This is the same end of a 9mm rope, and it feeds very smoothly. So you can imagine with 8 or 7mm twin or half ropes, this device will feed really nicely. Okay, so now let's talk about using these devices in belay from above mode. This is where you really do start to see some polarization between the megajoule and the gigajoule, and also where the megajoule had a number of fallbacks which I wasn't really pleased with, and I know many of my friends weren't really pleased with either, that are actually solved and rectified by the gigajoule. Alright, so in this case, I'm at the top of my pitch. I'm all tied in. The pitch goes off this way. Here's my anchor. I just built one solid piece anchor around a tree with my cord. First thing I want to do is clip myself in. We all know how to do that. Alright, so I'm all clipped in with a clove hitch. I'm going to pull up all my rope to my climber, and now I got to belay them up. So I pull out my megajoule. You'll notice how it has a ring right here. So that's the one I clip it to the anchor. I'm going to the master point with another locking carabiner. There we go. Let's put it like that. And I grab the rope to my climber. Now when it comes to actually loading this device, which I'll take off the anchor to show you better, you can see pictures on the side. They'll give you some hints on how to do it. You take the climber's side, which is off here, and the brake side, and you actually push this up through the device head like so. Take a carabiner and clip the rope. And now, with the ring clipped to the anchor, and I'll lock that carabiner, you'll see how the climber's end, you can tug on this to make sure that it's not actually going to go anywhere. And then you can pull on the brake side and bring in your climber. So that was how you're supposed to load the old megajoule in this setup. There are some fallbacks to this, like if you have a thin rope, there's a possibility of inversion of the strands. So instead of the climber side being on top, this whole thing could flip over and the climber side becomes where the brake strand should be, and then this device will no longer actually hold the climber. You can get around that by taking your carabiner right here and then clipping. You bring the rope up and down, and then you clip just a few of the strands. There we go. And now you see how the carabiner is actually inside the device. Obviously that's very hard to do. It's especially your first couple times, and it can be kind of hard to get your mind around that. But that is exactly how Edelrid will market the device to be used in belay from above. in order to prevent that catastrophic failure possibility. So now let me show you how to use the Giga Jul in Belay from above mode. There are a few more steps to it, but it is a lot nicer in the long run. First thing is you're probably going to be using this in the automatic mode while you're belaying your friend up, and then assuming you're swinging leads, you would then lead the next pitch and then use your device to bring them up. So first thing I'm going to do is switch it into manual mode, and then you see I got another ring just like in the Mega Jul, so I'm going to clip that ring to the anchor. I already have my locker down here on the little keeper strap, and after I pull in all my rope, here's my friend, climber that way, this is my belay strand, I'm going to thread it the same as I would a normal ATC belay device. So pass it through the top of the device like so, and then clip it with the carabiner, and then make sure that that is actually locked. There we go. And now you can test again by pulling on the climber side, which is on top, and you can see how that's pinching, and then I pull in rope, and I'm good to go. So that is a huge advantage right there versus all the rigmarole you have to deal with when loading the Mega Jul. But also what I've found while using this device and this exact same rope for both of these is by loading the Mega Jul the way you have to up from above or from down below, is it adds a whole lot more friction onto in the process of belaying. So you really have to sort of pull the rope through, and with fatter ropes that just gets more and more annoying. With the Giga Jul, that is solved because of the less contact with the rope and the way it's loaded, so there's less friction. This is about as much friction as you get with a normal ATC belay device or a Petzl Reverso. And so that is actually a really nice feature, as well as it makes it so much less complicated loading the device in the first place, and makes it easy to switch from a maybe a simpler or easier device or just a different device to switch to this one very easily. And it'd be great for beginners too, to switch to this device, and they don't have to deal with any weird clipping nonsense. So that is one of the huge factors in the Giga Jul, or sorry, in the Mega Jul, that I didn't like, was the amount of friction in belay from above mode. That is now fixed with the Giga Jul in belay from above. Alright, so now let's talk about rappelling with these two devices. Again, I'll start with the Mega Jul. There are two different ways you can rappel with this thing, and it kind of comes down to personal preference. One way that a lot of people prefer is just to load it on your belay loop when it's in the brake assist mode. So that way when you pull up rope, you have that brake assist to help you while rappelling down, and then you can hook your thumb and sort of filter the rope out. Me personally, I don't like doing this method because unless I'm planning to rappel and sit on the rope for a while, it kind of is just a lot of extra work, and I find it kind of stresses out my shoulder a bit to hold the device in the same smooth rappelling place. In fact, a lot of times I double up on my hands to avoid that problem. I know a lot of people like doing it, but me personally, I just don't find it being really nice, especially on fully hanging belays. That can also cause a lot of extra stress in your shoulders and arms, and be kind of hard to control on the way down. Me personally, I prefer to rappel with this device in the non-brake assist mode, which you can easily just flip the whole thing over. Remember, the thumb loop was facing away from me, and now it's facing towards. Bring the rope down, and then I can just rappel like normal. There are a few setbacks to this exact type of loading the device. One that you saw me right there. If I'm super far away from my anchor and I need to get whatever, maybe to unclip my personal anchor or whatever I'm using, and I pull up, well, I can't even pull up. So you would have to like take the thumb loop and push this thing up and stand up into it and then let it collapse on itself, which may not be the easiest thing if you're on, say, a hanging belay. And so you'd have to like grab the anchor and then unweight it You just thread it through with your fingers. It would be quite a pain in the ass. And so that's one thing that we want to avoid too, is it would probably mean taking your hand off the brake strand, which again, we want to avoid at all costs. So the way how I get around this is not only by practicing good techniques, but I also happen to have an extension, a rappel extension, which is something that I'll use an awful lot while climbing. Pretty much every time I rappel is with an extension. And so what I do is put it in the non-brake assist mode. I have my extension on, and now I can pull out my third hand. Set that up for success right there. And then I rappel the normal practice of if you were to have any sort of tubular device along with a third hand. And I just control the third hand while I rappel down with the Mega Jul in its non-auto locking mode. If I have to stop for whatever reason to fix the rope or something, then I can use the third hand and tie a knot if I have to on this setup. And so this is what I would do with the Mega Jul. I haven't exactly found any problems other than pulling the rope up. In terms of friction, I think it's fine. Maybe again a little on the extra higher friction side just because of how small it is. But other than that, everything works just the same. So how would you deal with this with the Mega Jul? Comparing it to the Mega Jul now, is I can put this away. There you go. So back to the Mega Jul. What I'm going to do is that little flippy thing right there, I'm going to put it back so that way now I'm in the manual mode, and you know it's manual because you have those same teeth right there like you have in any other Belay device. Load it up through the top, take your extension, clip it in. There you go, throw your third hand on, and then just like before, you're ready to go. Only if I go down a little bit and I'm like, oh wait, I forgot to grab that carabiner off the anchor, I can pull up the rope and it won't get stuck. Like the Belay device won't lock in on itself with the Mega Jul. So that's the big advantage, again, of the Giga Jul being both an assisted braking device and a completely manual device. I'd say that this thing is fully assisted braking, but like halfway manual, because of it doesn't work both ways in the manual setting, whereas this will work both ways in the manual setting. Alright, so final thoughts on the Giga Jul. After comparing it to all the shortcomings of the Mega Jul, the main things being how it doesn't quite work each way in manual position with feeding rope out and taking rope in, the extra friction while pulling up and belay from above, and the extra attention you have to deal with in order for everything to stay safe in the system of belaying from above, as well as other small shortcomings I have, like it being a little bit more hard to sort of lower a climber in this setting. I feel like pretty much every problem I had with the Mega Jul was fixed by the Giga Jul. I'm actually very impressed by this device, and I think I'm willing to say that this device is probably the most do-it-all device on the market, at least that I've seen. I know there are other devices that are do-it-all, like the Mammut Smart and that climbing technology ClickUp, which I've gotten to use once or twice, but I don't really have a full opinion on that. But those, as far as I can tell, those also have more shortcomings as well, whereas this device has really shown itself to be a fully functional ATC, tubular type device, as well as a fully functional assisted braking device. I also think that this device has maybe a little bit less slippage than the Mega Jul. I found that a lot of rope will slip through the Mega Jul in various ways. A lot of time when the climber's just sitting on the rope if the belayer isn't keeping a really good brake hand. And this device has less of that slippage. It still has a little bit. It's not like a full gree-gree with no slippage, but this device does have less of that, probably because it's more meaty, more surface area, and the groove is also sort of shaped a bit differently. It's a bit wider. I'm not an engineer or anything, but I'm assuming that's what's contributing to the less amount of slippage that I've felt with this device, on a variety of different ropes too. Obviously, when it's in belay from above mode, there is absolutely no slippage, and the rope is always pinched, so that's nice. Another cool fact is, since this is Edelrid, they have certain parts like this right here, and then this right here. This is where the rope runs through when you're braking on each side. They're made out of steel, so they are going to last a lot longer than your aluminum belay devices. I think one sort of worry I had was some of the teeth right here in the steel section. They felt kind of sharp, and I was kind of worried about them rappelling the first couple times with my ropes, if they would hurt the sheath and maybe wear out the rope faster. I guess I'll see if that happens in the future. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they took that into account with the little friction teeth. On an ATC, those are worn off within like the first month of using the device. I'd say the first 20 rappels, those teeth are worn down, so that's not really a problem there. But these being steel teeth, it's going to take forever for them to wear down. And I'm just sort of want to see with the long run of my rope about how those teeth will do. Another thing I've also tried out with this device are certain guiding things. Stuff like using it as a redirected plate to lower a climber, which I found felt exactly the same as any standard ATC device. I also have used it for belaying two climbers at the same time in parallel rope technique, and I've found that to feel pretty similar, if not the same, as a ATC or reverso. So all those systems feel exactly the same. They do have a little hole right here, so that way you can flip the device when it's in belay from above in order to release rope to your climber. However, we aren't exactly peddling that idea anymore. Nowadays, it's more of the load strand direct system, which you can see in my how to lower a climber video, whatever I called that, which I found the LSD method works just fine with this device. It pretty much, I haven't really found that many drawbacks to it yet. The only thing I'd be worried about again is just sort of the fragility of this moving part, but it just feels super solid. I don't think it's really going to break off anytime soon, and I don't think I can make it break off or anything. You can get these devices for about 50 bucks off of a bunch of different outdoor websites, and for $50 that's basically half the price of a gree-gree. And then you get both an ATC and a gree-gree in a device. I'm usually one. I like to say certain devices are maybe like they're beginner devices like an ATC, which are very simple, no bells and whistles. There are secondary belay devices, which is what I like to call them, where it's like after you already own a more basic belay device like an ATC, you can go out and get, a Mega Jul, which I refer to as a secondary belay device, or a Mammut Smart would be a good secondary belay device. I'd say that this, because it is two devices in one, like two full devices in one, this sort of bridges the gap between primary and secondary belay device. So if you are looking for a belay device on the market and you're just got into climbing, this may be a device for you. I say it's still important to very important to be able to use a tubular non-assisted braking device, because that is a skill that's getting less and less among all the belay devices we have in the market, and that's a very important skill for any climber to have. But if you also want a little bit of assisted braking action, then this is a very good device for you, especially if you take a lot of new people out, for the people who are guiding like me, or people who just work with a lot of less experienced recreationalists. You still have that auto assist, sorry I keep saying that, the brake assist feature, in order to give yourself a bit more security while you're on that crux pitch lead and you're not exactly sure if your client is going to catch you or not. I think that this is one of the more foolproof brake assist setups on the market, because even if even if you're holding your device, just the force of the fall is going to force this whole thing to cam up on the carabiner and provide much needed brake assistance to the less experienced belayer. Yeah, I'd say this is a very impressive device. I'd say it's worth having in your quiver. If you are looking for something like a brake assist multi-pitch device, this is a perfect device. If you want an alpine device that can do more than just an ATC or whatever, this is it. It is a bit heavier than the Mega Jul, but it's two devices in one, so it's already lighter than carrying two different devices. And I would love to hear your comments on it. I gotta say, this is probably like 10 out of 10 for me. I'm very impressed with this device. I don't give 10 out of 10. I've never given 10 out of 10 on anything, but this gets 10 out of 10. Please, I would like to hear your comments on it, what you think would be best on this, or like what you prefer to use this device for, how much, even some things you don't like about it. I would love to hear that, just to see what other people think about it. If you have any questions, you can always leave a comment, and then I'll see you guys in the next video.